Special session, July 1st, 2021. Roll call, please. Oh, hi, Pat.
Passing out signs.
Sheriff Dermott.
Here.
Derek Gander.
Present.
Dr. Joseph.
Here.
John Hurd.
Present.
Riley Hartwell.
Here.
Brent Jordan.
Present.
And Jeff Coe.
Present. If you guys could join me in the pledge, guys.
It's not actually. I'm on the last one.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. First up, I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. Derek, is there a second? Second, thank you, Michael. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda. Please vote.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Okay, first out of the box, Dr. Saketa.
Okay, so in the last week and since our last board meeting, we've been working hard to try to come to a conclusion of what this Dover Hill project is going to cost us. And we've been working with CGA and Crossland extensively, and even up to this morning to make sure that we had our numbers correct. And Crossland has went back and checked specifications of different items in the different trade packages that is listed. It's a little bit, can be a little bit confusing, but I want to explain how the action item is laid out. It's laid out in terms of what the gross maximum price is for the packages that you had not previously approved, okay? So it's based on that, and then the total gross maximum price for the project. And then also we put a little bit of information in there about the previous packages, but also the main thing too that you're interested in is the total of the project is listed. So I'd like to let the gentleman tell you a little bit more about how we got to where we are and to be able to explain to you and also explain to you the difference between today's number and some of the things that might have attributed to that since the board voted in December of 2020 to go ahead and adopt the budget that was adopted at that time. Okay?
Great.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to start it out. And really, I don't want to spend a lot of time going through this since we reviewed this last week, but I did bring this information in case we wanted to revisit it. This is the same presentation last week, but you will see when we jump down to the bid day update, we have now added a column for the 7-1 current values. Up above on bid day, you will see the number, the 26,846 with the letter A. And that corresponds to the handout that Crossland provided. So that should hopefully help you navigate that document when they start talking about it. Jumping down to 7.1, the total project cost. After vetting some of the trade packages, it looks like the number has actually come down a little bit. And there were a few reasons behind that. But there you see the number shown, the 26,634 with the letter B, and that matches up to the corresponding matrix that we will discuss in a moment. So the total construction cost, and not project cost, just construction alone, is the 22,494 number there shown with item C. But that excludes the playground and turf. Those items we didn't receive any bids on during bid day, and we've had a lot of conversations about that, and it was determined preliminarily that the playground and turf was going to be bid out later. So that total project cost that we show above includes a line item, a budget line item for those items that weren't bid. So I just wanted to provide that clarification that the total project cost does include an allowance and or line item for those two items that still have yet to be bid. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I would say on that one is on the turf. Wasn't that one that we did get one bid, but it was
we received two bids,
okay.
and
But
actually we are recommending that the board reject those bids
Yes.
because we feel they are way too high.
Yeah,
Yes,
we
and that is in the recommendation. We had to be very clear in terms of when we get to the recommendation or that it's specified that way.
So I am, again, I brought this information in case we wanted to refer back to it, but at this point in time, I'm going to let Aaron and/or Danny kind of take over and kind of explain the document they've handed out.
Sure. So starting to go through the numbers on this 11 by 17 document. What we're looking at in the very first bid day column, bid day values, is what we received on bid day. Now that is what we plugged in initially, and that was a real quick run through on that bid day to just get a somewhat close idea of where we're going to be. After that, and we knew that's not the final number. We knew we had to go through and vet those numbers completely, which is why we didn't bring it to the board last week. We still had some vetting to do. Now, if you move to the column on the, just to the right of that, current values, it's dated up at the top, 7-1. It's also that B column. Those are the values that we are recommending to the board, minus the items in orange. Those two items, what Chad talked about earlier, both the playground equipment and shade structures, we did not receive a number on bid day for those. That $91,000 is our estimated number as far as the CD, the 50% CD budget. So that is, we didn't get a number on those. Moving down to line 32F, which is the next orange line, synthetic turf and protective surfacing. We got two numbers on bid day, 281,000 and change. We feel like that is very high, and those two bids should be rejected. So with that being said, the current value of what we've received to date, with all of the costs associated with general conditions, contingencies, allowances, soft costs, support costs, that is what area B is pointing to, 26,634,807. That is what we're conveying as our project total budget, not necessarily our GMP. Okay? That is your total realm of budget. It includes those two numbers that we're still having to bid out later, whether that be Crossland, whether that be Joplin School District, that remains to be seen, but we have to cover that in the budget to cover ourselves. Okay? We feel like that those numbers are high, and when the numbers do come in, they will be less than that. Okay, so moving to the right, Delta bid day. This is what we discovered in fully vetting our subs. If you notice, there are pluses, there are minuses. There are things that were not covered in the scope that should have been with the low guy, and we see that a lot. The low guy, there's usually a reason why they're low, honestly. Conversely, on some of the low guys, we found credits still yet. So there are savings, overall savings in those. Ultimately, throughout the line items of the subcontractors that bid, we found a net savings of $230,000 within those line items from bid day. Moving forward, obviously, all of the items below the direct costs that are either their percentage based and they relate directly to the subtotal direct cost. That moves down to our red, item in red, which is the subtotal construction cost, GMP. That line item from bid day, there's a total savings from bid day of $211,000. There is one add we did get from the city below our line items, our direct cost line items. Everything else was percentage based, so it dropped down. Does that make sense? So moving to the far right, recommended GMP values. Those correspond directly with current values minus the two items in orange, because we're not going to accept those at current date. So that is not going to be part of the GMP. With those items taken out, obviously the items below the subtotal direct cost changed because it's all fee-related, percentage-based. So we come to a total dollar amount of $22,494, or $22 million, sorry, $22,494,415. And again, that is minus the two trade scopes, 11D and 32F. And it also includes the trade packages in green that have previously been approved by the board. So that is your complete holistic GMP from us. Any questions about that?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the 26.6 with the amendment that we ask for $1 million in value engineering to bring this cost down somewhat. I spoke before, and I still am concerned that we put a bond out for 25 million, came in at 26 some, great. But if you add in Kelsey Norman plus this, we're at 29.5. I have the belief that, not only educate the kids in a safe environment, but also that we are fiduciary responsible to the community. I understand that cost of materials have gone up. Some of the site stuff is unforeseen. It is what it is. But I would ask that we have an amendment to try to value engineer $1 million off of this total, so we still can take care of both the fiduciary part and move forward with the school.
Second. All right, there's a motion and a second. Discussion?
John, does that start with our architect, or when you say value engineer, is that something Crossland is supposed to handle, or is it changing the design scope some? Is that kind of part of that?
Yeah, what I think it would be is it's probably Greer, Crossland, and our administrator and Carrie here looking at, hey, what are some of the things we could maybe not do right now, push off. There is this bubble out there on costs. It is going to come down. This is an odd thing where you have supplies constraint, labor's constraint, and money's plentiful out there. So that stuff will work itself through. And I think if you guys look at that, and this is your guys' space, and say, hey, how do we kind of layer this in and how do we shave some of those costs down? I think that we could get to that. That's why I bring that up. It's like you can do some different things.
So do I understand your motion that you're moving that we accept contingent on $1 million reduction?
Correct.
So that so that would reduce it to 25,634?
Yes. And so it's higher than we told the community, but I think it also speaks to that we're trying to do some things here to try to pull it down a little bit. And look, a lot of this stuff is unforeseen. I think people understand that, but can we still be somewhere in the middle on this and still get it done and move forward?
Respectfully, that's not higher than you told the community, but I understand what you're saying. And I don't know if that,
I
I don't know how that works.
Do we have the funds? Since the bond was 25 million, we have the funds to complete this at the current projections. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
We got the one-time spend money, and I don't remember, so it would be no cost.
Well, we have ESSER funding. I know that if you start breaking it down in its pieces and parts, there's about, and Chad, I know we've had this discussion before with the board, but there's about 500,000 within this project in HVAC that would be ESSER eligible. We were trying to move those ESSER funds more toward keeping current people employed, moving them down to maximum transfer to cap outlay. Because when you start using ESSER directly for construction, then suddenly all the federal prevailing wage, Davis-Bacon, all that stuff then comes to bear and it becomes a much more complicated project. But because of ESSER funds, it's kind of like we can put it here, which moves this over
Right.
here. So if we wanted to, in our own minds, think about the one-time money, as you mentioned, there's about 500,000 of HVAC. And we could go back and even say there were portions of the Kelsey Norman HVAC upgrades that could. Is that accurate? And then you could also, we got articles just in the last 3 weeks or so that Carrie's been looking at. We've got that FF&E amount of $992,250, furniture, fixtures, equipment. There's been a lot of talk of ESSER allowable purchases in the name of student classroom furniture that facilitates social distancing better than others. You know, rather than the group work tables, are there individual student desks that then you can put together and they're
Right.
more mobile, if you will. So there's portions definitely embedded in the FF&E according to the literature Carrie and I've been looking at that would also come under ESSER funding. And because we're using ESSER funding towards salaries, that's why for the next, you just did it the other day to make a maximum transfer in cap outlay. I think our current balance now off the top of my head is 14 million.
Yes.
And we'll be doing that again this year and next year to transfer money to cap outlay. So we can build this building
Yes.
using tax-free bonds that were issued, which we got a premium for.
Good. Very good.
And take care of the overages without putting our district in fiscal distress. And we would not be going out and bringing on any extra debt to the district. So yes, we could.
So we have 14 million in capital outlay extra.
Right
So
now.
if we used it, we would still be at $10 million roughly.
Yes,
And
those
still be in
balances
very
have been
good
growing.
financial shape. The district's still going to be in great shape.
And we anticipate that we'll be making those transfers again this year and the next. We've been growing our fund balance for the last 4 or 5 years, honestly.
So if I may, I really like John's idea. I mean, my concern, if I could just say a couple things. What we have promised the public is that we would construct this without asking for additional funding from them. And that, I think, is what Mike just referenced, and our finance group has assured us that we have that money. At the same, and that is how we kind of grew the building from its initial design. Just for purposes of conversation, that's how we enlarged some spaces, we did some things that created additional cost, and during that conversation, we acknowledged some of this, and that's how we got where we are.
Right.
Then materials went up in price, causing a little bit further frustration. I like what John is saying. My question is I don't know how that works procedurally today. I would functionally like for that to, I mean, not just $1 million. I don't know. It seems as I'm concerned that that's a condition that we are demanding that may not be on the table. And I just don't know how that works. I don't know if Crossland and Chad can explain if John's proposal works, if we can just approve that and we've got a guaranteed max, or we don't. I mean, I just want to make sure that we're contractually in our lane, because I think any of us would acknowledge that, you know, when those materials go up in price, hopefully later when we actually purchase things, we might buy things for less. I don't know, but we all want to try to reduce what may have gotten higher than what we thought it would be.
Yeah, so
And is it even reasonable to think we could get 5% reduction on this? I'm not the bidding, but I'm going to guess the answer is no, that you're not going to come up with $1 million off this deal.
Well, so a couple of things to that. I mean, the procedure, what that looks like is the team from engineers, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, everybody kind of digging in and trying to assess what areas and opportunities will have for value engineering. So there will be additional work associated with us going through that exercise, and there will be an additional fee associated with that as well. Additionally, we would have to document all of those changes and revisions. Those would have to go out on the streets, and it would probably be somewhere in the realm of 3 to 4 months of work to document it, bid it, secure those contracts, rebid it, and get board approval to move forward. So there's some time on that as well. Additionally, I don't think that $1 million we can value engineer enough with just little things here and there, finishes, changing in specifications. We've already been pretty efficient and lean in the materials and the products that we've specified for this. What we're really gonna have to start looking at is square footage. And as you recall, when we came to the December board meeting, we essentially were looking for approval to increase the square footage because of all the things the school already needed. So I'm not sure where those targets are for us to identify. That would, you're exactly right. That'd be a conversation with Dr. Saketa, Crosland, and all of us to try to come up with a listing of all those items. Some are going to be easy to take. Some of them are going to be quite difficult. But to get to $1 million, you're going to have to make a few difficult decisions.
I really hate to see the project being slowed 4, 5, 6 months and having to do all this work to maybe possibly could save some money. And I don't think we're going to get to the $1 million. It's not like we're in financial distress in our district. We got plenty of money to do it. We never knew what this project was going to cost from the get-go because it was all a total estimate. We couldn't,
I mean,
Well, I mean,
we had a project that we didn't know what the cost was going to be.
we had an estimated cost, but we didn't even have a set of drawings to go off. There was no way in the world you were going to estimate this size of a project based on, okay, we got this much square feet and this is the price of all these items and this is what the number is. We never had a number that we knew that this was going to cost. We had to guess it was going to go over. You're not going to build a $25 million whatever and expect that it's just going to be 25, 24, 23, at least not in my experience.
Except the Early Childhood Education Center, maybe that's different because it had a $10 million.
Well, there is no way you're going to build this type of a building and not have overages. And when you throw the COVID into it and the costs going up, there's no way. I think our district is financially stable. We've got plenty of funds to do it. I don't see any reason to hold this project up 4 to 6 months and try to rebid this to try to possibly save. There's no guarantee you're going to save anything. And if you delay it, your prices may go up.
But if you don't ask, you know for certain that you won't save a penny.
Well, that's fine. I mean, there's going to be two sides to it, but my gut feeling is I'm ready to move on.
Delaying it is not an option. Dr. Saketa has a letter from an instructional engineer that says that our kids cannot be in that building after, I don't know, July, August, something of 22.
Columbia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's fall.
So we cannot be in that building another year after this year. And if we are, I mean, if we push this project back, we're going to have to find space for those kids. I don't know what that's going to cost, but it's going to add probably several $100,000 to this. It's just not, that's not an option. Pushing it back is not an option. I mean, I have so many points. So I've been on the board for about 4 years, maybe a little over 4. And I can't think of a single time where we didn't have a project where someone, whether it was, one of the guys that are in charge or Carrie or whoever, they put in the extra time and it saved us money. And you can look down this list. We're saving money. I can't think of any project that we've ever built, I know since I've been on the board, where we had slush money into a project where we could have said, oh, well, okay, we need to save a couple $100,000. Let's just take out some of the wants. I don't know that we have that. And I guess my question to the administration is, do we have some fluff in this thing? My guess is we don't. So my question, I guess, maybe to John, since you proposed it, but I'm just curious, is the hang up more of the cost that we're seeing, or is it the initial cost, the projected, in 2019 or 20? What's the?
Me personally, I have a belief that if we've set a number to the community for these 2 schools, that we should try to honor that number and come in close to that. Understanding, and I do understand that we have had some cost escalations that we haven't seen before. And I think that we're in a good financial situation as a school district, but that's not the point. The point is, what did we tell the community? What did we move forward with, and where are we at now? And I'm trying to find a way of how do we thread that needle to where we're responsible fiduciarily, along with taking care of the kids in that timeline. And that's what I'm saying, hey, can we find another path forward where we split this to a degree and can still accomplish the things we want and stay in really good financial health? That's all.
So, and I think there's maybe some miscommunication because I know last week, Dr. Moss was accused of trying to continue to push this narrative of it being 19 million. And And I can tell you, I went back through and read every article and watched every broadcast over the last 2 days of this particular project as it went before our community to vote. And Dr. Moss in 2019 put out there that it was going to be $25 million. And in a couple months before the bond issue went to vote in April, Dr. Moss is on, I have it quoted that she's saying we have a bond for $25 million, but the total project might cost $26.5 million. So I don't see where we're miscommunicating with the community. This is pretty in line. In fact, if you just factor in the overages of from COVID, which we couldn't have expected, I'm assuming that's part of the reason, we're really not off at all on the budget. She advertised this thing could cost as much as $26.5 million.
But that was for both facilities.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. And if you add in just 10% overage, I don't know if we're much over that. So
If you
that
put
would
the two
cover
together, it's at
Cecil
29.5
Flora.
at this point.
I'm sorry.
If you add the two schools together, we're at 29.5.
Right, yeah.
Then that's what I'm saying. I keep thinking of this in the totality of the two schools and what the bond was for and what we had communicated. And that's why I'm saying, is there a way for us to find a way to value engineer, get $1 million down, understanding we have some true, real headwinds that we're
Right.
facing?
But in addition to that, in December of last year in 20, we added over 30,000 square foot to this thing.
3,000.
3,000.
3,000.
Okay, no, my math was a little off. Okay.
Don't even close the bell.
But the bottom line is, we have the money. If we were sitting there and she said we had $3 million sitting there and we've got a real problem, and I think we would need to rethink. But we're not going to be left in financial distress in our district by spending the extra money that we need to finish this project on time and get those kids into school.
Yeah.
I'm not worried that we're leaving our district in financial distress.
Okay. I share my comment from the safety committee. I know every year they go through and they say, okay, here are the 57 different things that we need to do to make our school safer. And we can't do all 57. So we go, okay, we can do this and this because of priorities and things. And I think that's what John is asking is make that priority list. What do we have to have and what can wait? I think that's what he's asking. I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but
No, but
it's not saying you don't need everything.
That could be part of the value, though, and this is where Crossing can say, hey, look, we're seeing an extreme bubble on these particular trade things. We don't need to do this towards the end of the project. Let's hold this for now, and maybe we just rebid that when we get closer to it.
Which is what they're doing already
You could
with
certainly
the,
get dollars out without having to do anything else, but just wait for the bubble to pass, because not everything is done at once when you're building these schools out. It's done over time, and some of that headwind maybe is passed as you move across time. And nobody gets hurt in the process. You still get it all done. You just get it done at a better price.
I really think this is good conversation, and I hate to hammer on this, but again, the idea was that we would not ask our taxpayers for more dollars to fund this project, and I don't believe that we're gonna have to do that. That being said, I don't disagree with what you're saying. What is being presented today is a guaranteed maximum price. So it could come in under that. Is there any,
That's a good point. We do have contingencies still built in.
and can
So,
you talk about
absolutely.
kind of what those contingencies
how's
are?
the rock going? That's a big one, right? That's 600,000.
So
Is it
you've
over
got
600,000?
You've got close to $1 million
I
of
think
contingency built into the total budget. Into the GMP, we've got $345,000 of construction contingency.
Can you tell me what line you're on?
Over at the far right,
Just under
Above
33A
C.
right here.
Just under 19.7.
yeah, 19.7, 345,000.
It's your first line under the gray.
Oh, thank you.
So we've got that line item built into the GMP, and you also have $600,000 of owner contingency in the overall budget.
Right. So total, you've got maybe $1 million.
Very
We're
close to
very
$1 million.
optimistic if we think.
Yes, but
I
you've
get
got
it.
$1 million right now. in that bucket.
And do we know what our rock allowance and trench rock's gonna be? Because that's in there too.
We have $650,000 of rock allowance. So we do not yet know how much that's going to be.
But that is included
out.
in the figures that we're
That's
discussing.
included in the
including,
26.
So we got the 600 for the rock contingency and we've got,
650 and then plus $1 million of just contingency.
so we got $1,650,000.
Yes,
Potentially.
Potential.
potentially.
That's
If
right.
nothing goes wrong,
That's
yeah.
right. But it's in that bucket of money.
Right.
Right.
But in full disclosure,
Yep.
if that rock does go over,
Yep.
there's risk there as well.
Yeah.
Those are allowance
Yep.
dollars that we projected the best we can to try to cover
Sure.
that rock. There's just no way to put a solid number to that being subsurface.
Can you give us how far in that rock you've gone? Are you 25% of the way or 75?
Right now, they haven't broken out any rock.
Oh,
They've
okay.
gotten
And
to the rock. If you go on site, especially if you come from the center of Joplin and look where they've stopped, they've started hitting rock.
okay,
That level has to go down another 5, 6, 7 feet.
okay. So we don't know yet
We don't know
what it's
yet.
going to look like.
And the hill is still yet to be completely uncovered. So we still don't know where that rock is going to lie until they expose it all.
Is there a projected time frame for, because right now they're really trying to expose it so they can start the process of
Right.
quantifying it.
That's
Do you know when we should know that quantification?
Well, we need Mother Nature to stop doing her thing.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I would say in the next couple of weeks, we would know within
Have a much
reasonable,
better idea.
yes.
And Aaron, how much of that is gonna be yet to know because of the road to Murphy and the staging lanes?
I would say in a
going
couple of weeks, we're going to know pretty close, even with the road.
over? Okay.
Yes.
And then there was an issue, we don't have the firm dollar amount yet, but we did have one prospector hole on the perimeter of the property that
Yeah.
matches the maps that we saw. It's
That's a
not
good
on the
thing.
building site, but it's on the perimeter.
Nowhere near
It's
the building.
all on
Nowhere
parking
near
To
the
be clear,
building, but it
nowhere
could
near
cause
the
us some
building.
problems. But we're gonna get into that some. I mean, we have to be realistic that we are gonna get
Right.
into that some.
And that's why we put it there.
But I think we've estimated robustly to try to protect the budget of what we could use. These are healthy contingencies.
Right.
I don't think we'll spend them all. I wish I had a globe about that. But we'll get into them
Can we?
some. Now, there's FF&E in here too of almost $1 million.
Right.
And sometimes you count that, sometimes you don't. But I don't think that's below the number that John's talking about, I believe.
No, the
No.
number I proposed amendment, I was take the 26,634 and take a
It's
million off.
included.
It's inclusive.
So we've got all the furniture
That we could,
and all of that in there. The things that if you took the building and turned it upside down, they'd
Shake it.
fall out.
Right.
But we could take care of that with our district budget.
We very hopeful
You know, not everybody counts furniture
that
when
we
they're
can,
building a
that we
building.
can pull, that furniture's going to come significantly under that number. Very hopeful.
Can I ask about our other project, how it's doing with its budget?
Sure. Currently, right now, speaking of contingency, we started at 50,000 and we're down to 21,000 remaining. And we don't feel like we're going to hit anything else.
Most
So
of that was unsuitable. soil.
unsuitable soil, yes. Similar to what we're getting into at Dover.
So we'll
But
expect that to come in on.
That complete savings goes back to the district.
Right. But that's not, that's.
It's not a ton. But percentage-wise, if you look at it as a percentage, it's a pretty good
so
chunk.
1%.
Sure. Quick question on this. In terms of the guaranteed maximum price, we're saying that would be the 26.6 million, correct?
No, the 22, 494, 415.
The soft cost,
Okay,
that's, the 26 is the total program cost.
got it. I'm with you now. It's the item number C, right?
Yes.
Got it.
Correct.
So
Yes.
22.4 million.
Yeah, that's, what we're doing today technically is taking care of their contract and their commitment to keep the price where it is. And the stuff underneath that is the other cost and Chad's cost that we want to, and when you couple it all together,
Sure.
that's your 26.
So earlier this week, I was reading through a few items and And in one of the bid packages, and I sent this over, so you already know the answer to this, but I just want to make it known. Section 13, under changes, item A, trade contractors and/or subcontractors markup, overhead, and profit on change orders are not to exceed 10% combined. Does that mean that as a district, if we could have up to $2.2 million in change orders?
Wait,
No.
no.
The 10%, we put those in our trade contract to protect our clients. We don't want to give a subcontractor, we will have change orders, or if there is a change order, we don't want to give a subcontractor an open book to put 50% market. So we limit their market at 10% to help protect our clients. The 10% does not have anything to do with the potential total change orders that could occur.
Okay.
So a great, for instance, is at Cornell Arts, just right down the road, we're building. The roofing contractor gave us a change order and he had 25% markup. Well, per that document, he can only have 10% markup. So we reduced that overall change order down by that 15%.
No, that's a good thing. Yeah, absolutely.
It's an
And
absolute.
unless we change the scope of work, we don't anticipate a change order.
That's right.
So if we came in and said, oh, we gotta have 100 square feet somewhere, that's a change
That's a
order,
change.
that's a problem.
Yeah.
And then somebody would have to approve it, like you, the board. So it's too big of a change order.
Or a month from now, we find out we didn't use any of that contingency. Let's put that square foot back that you valued engineered out. And then we're in huge extra costs.
That's right.
And that's the thing that worries me is, and I think about where were those 3,000 square feet? Those were our CBSS classroom that we've been busing out our most needy special ed children from the zone where their parents have chosen to live. We decided that was important enough to add back.
Bring them in.
That and a little space in the kitchen, and I can't remember if enclosing the balconies was part of that or not. That was about 850 to 900,000 of that estimate at the time. There's your $1 million. But is that something we want to do, knowing that 3 months from now, we could say, man, I wish we'd kept that in there because things are looking good.
If Dr. Moss wants to add that square footage back later, it's gonna cost much more.
Correct.
Than what you're getting the value back taking it out.
See, and that was my question, because I hear that all the time. It's cheaper to build it today than it ever will be. But considering our environment that we're in, is that really the case? I mean, for me, it seems like we're under extenuating circumstances right now. This is not a normal situation at all. But nevertheless, is that really true still, that it's cheaper to build it today than it ever will be? At other times, I agree that that's the case. Let's say we say, well, we'll do this in 5 years, we'll do this in 10 years. But is that really the case today versus
I'm more,
the past?
we never know what the market is, the volatility is now. I'm more speaking towards adding a smaller piece of the pie. Increase the economy of scale, the cost will go up. So if Chad has to redraw, foundations that we could run straight at one time, now we got to take the foundations out wider. That is going to be more expensive per square foot because of the economy of scale than what it is today. You definitely agree with that?
Okay.
But to answer your question, we are in an extenuating circumstance.
This is just an odd.
It's an odd time.
Nothing normal right now.
Current market conditions, yeah, it goes up every year, but not like we're seeing now.
And I'll add, I keep in touch with a lot of colleagues, some regionally, some across the country. And I told them where this project came in because we're all kind of talking about what each other's seeing. And they're amazed that we're at 5%. They're seeing magnitude of 15, 20%. And, historically, we see 3% per year inflation across the boards. And that's just a reality. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you what it's going to be like in 6 months. People are projecting it's going to level off and stay where we're at for a while, and we're not going to get that 3% next year. But it's going to, they're saying that they think it's going to stay reasonably the same for some time because of labor issues, supply issues, and a whole host of things that aren't going to get fixed until we have the labor force back fully working. And I don't know when that's going to be.
Well, thank you for that. For me, I think it's the important thing when we're discussing this. I know John has made some comments and Sherrick and Brent as well, but Dr. Joseph as well. But a couple things that when I sit here and think about this is, first and foremost, I think it's important to recognize that all of the money that's here, even though it's in capital outlay and it's from the bond, it's all the people's money. It's not just, well, we're exceeding in this area, so we're going to take this free. No money is free, and I don't think anybody on the board disagrees with that. And for me, at least, the important thing that I'm constantly thinking of is that, yes, it comes out of a different fund. It comes out of capital outlay. It comes out of the bonding capacity that we have, and whatever the case may be. But nevertheless, the people ultimately still pay for that. And I have my own issues with the way the federal government has been handling what they call free money. Nothing, like I said, nothing's free. So that's just my personal opinion. So maybe some of it's personal belief and conviction, but I think people in Joplin, Missouri have a general expectation that we live lean and that we save and that we conserve. And the general person in Joplin is conservative in their approach. And that's what I think for me, and the questions that I ask has always been where my questions have come from, is that conservative approach of how do we get the best bang for our buck always. And that's the direction that I want to head in always. And I do think that there has been some work, or you can see the differences. I am a little alarmed at the fact that there's this big of a jump or big of a variation in the casework and millwork, especially considering some of the issues we've had in the past with cabinetry falling out of walls at previous schools.
To reply to that, on bid day, that number was so low, we didn't use that in our initial numbers.
Right.
But after going back and vetting them, and actually reached out to another subcontractor that said they were gonna bid, that didn't bid it, and was much closer to this number, it made us feel more comfortable. Because if that other contractor would have bid it, this number wouldn't have looked as low, but the other contractor was not able to get the bid in. So we felt more comfortable recommending that lower number.
Well, like I said, my concern continues to be that we want to be within those boundaries. We want to be in a situation, at least where, as we continue to move forward, we recognize that it is all the people's money. And I just keep going back to that. So I think John has a good point, and I think Sherrick does as well. I'm refreshed to hear that we are in agreement in the fact that we do want to at least be able to, A, live within our means, and B, continue to move forward with the project, because I truly believe everybody here wants that. I want that. I've been in Columbia. I was in Columbia 5 years ago, and it was bad. I was in Columbia 2 years ago. It was bad. It's not a good situation there. Nobody wants that, and it's not necessarily as dire at West Central, but Columbia continues to be the main focus for me. So I do still agree to the fact that the average person, and I don't work with 22 million worth of money every day, and I don't think anybody at this table does 22 million every single day in their lives. But like I said, sometimes in life we have to make some uncomfortable decisions, and even if we have all the money in the world, we don't necessarily want to spend it. I think sometimes we have to use examples that are meaningful. I sold a brand new car last year, okay, because the market was really good. And I opted not to buy another new vehicle because the market was so good. it's so bad, I should say, for the buyer. And I'm driving something else. And I think that's what people all around this community are doing as well right now, is just that, tightening their belts and doing the next best thing. And I think that the government has an expectation to do the same thing. And that's why I agree with John that I think we should at least give something a try in terms of a reduction, because the perception is reality in our community. And I think if you don't ask those questions, people may not be asking us right now, how did we get to this point? But I've seen it before, and it's not just in Joplin, but it's everywhere. You know, at the end, they say, well, why were we here? And how did we get here? And that's why I want to be able to say, as for me, I think a satisfactory answer is we did everything that we possibly could to live within our means, just like you, every day. So that's why I agree with John in his assessment. And he knows much more than I do about commercial construction. And I defer to that a lot. But he's taught me a lot, and so do other people at this table, Carrie Saketa, Dr. Moss, the group at Crossland. I've learned a lot through this process. But nevertheless, I still believe that we have to continue to move forward with at least some sort of direction to try to reduce the cost of this project.
Riley, I don't disagree, but I'll just say that's why we hired CGA and Crossland, because they're the best in the business. They're going to get it done at the most affordable price. I feel like they're doing exactly what you're asking them to do. We're already doing that. So I agree with you.
And again, I don't think we're that far off. 29 million, you take out the FF&E, you're down to 28. We got $1.6 million in contingencies. Then you're 26 and a half. Well, that's what she said. And that, we could be, and I still think that we are doing fantastic. And to come this close to this number on this project, I think we're there. I mean, we're there. I'm shocked we're there. I mean, I think we've done a great job. And I'm not thinking we're way out of line. And I think if you subtract those contingencies out and FF&E out, you're right at 26.5 million for this project, and you went 5% over or 4% over on this magnitude of a project. I applaud you. I'm happy. Everybody's got an opinion. I get it.
I don't think you guys, if they save money, they're not going to keep it in your pocket. It'll come back to the district. I don't know that on a project, like you say, of this magnitude, I don't want to say that $2 or $3 million is drop hat, because it's not. But we owe it to the students of the district to give them the best possible learning, the building that they're going to be in for a long time, and not take 100 square foot here or 100 square foot there. And then, like Dr. Moss said, or, in 4 months go, God, I wish we'd have left that in there.
It's going to be there 100 years, probably just like
100 years. We owe it to the students of the district. I have 2 students of the district. I pay a ton of taxes. And this is one of those things that it doesn't bother me that that's where my tax money is going. I'm comfortable with. I can make all kinds of, references, just like the car, and I understand that. I'd love to sell my little work truck. That thing brings $7,000 right now. It ain't worth $2,000.
I understand things a little better sometimes.
I'm still stuck without that truck. I'm confident going forward with the numbers that we have. I think that the guys have done a phenomenal job. I don't know that there's $1 million. Unless you cut square footage out, and I'm not willing to vote to cut square footage out.
And see, I agree with you, Derek. I don't want to cut this thing into something that's unusable for people at all. But, I get concerned last night at the 11th hour, we get a message that we just paid $124,000 to the city of Joplin in fees
For
this project.
Yeah.
And permitting fees, it's little moments like that culminate in my frustration.
But that's
it's one thing. It's like,
And it's part of these numbers.
okay.
that's frustrating to me, Derek. I know the city gave us the land, and I'm thankful for that. I'm involved with the city. I'm not saying anything bad about the city, but I don't think that that is necessarily the best look for the city to charge the school district $124,000.
Well, I agree with you there.
I think it's robbery, and Crossland already paid it.
Well, they don't have a choice.
Right, and
You have to have the permit.
but like I'm saying, those are the layers of oversight that I think we as a board can make a difference in.
I don't think on permitting fees, it goes off project costs, and that's the way Joplin's doing this now.
Yeah.
So I don't,
It went up by 30% on the permit fees. Did the cost go up by 30%?
Yeah, it went up. Yeah.
So, I mean, if that's the case, there's two big ticket items on that, but if it's square footage and not actual activity that they're doing,
They actually gave us that 92,725 to put in there, so.
oh,
That's been carried through one of the initial budgets. So
okay.
a year and a half ago, they gave us that number.
And just to be clear, Derek, I'm not asking that we cut square footage. So.
well, no, I'm just saying that's kind of what the general that's about the only way to do it, correct?
Not
I mean,
necessarily. If, as they already said, between the rock and the two contingencies, you're at $1.5 million.
right. Well, there's our $1 million. I say we push forward with the project.
Yeah, and that's why I'm making that motion with the amendment, is that, hey, we can get it done, but at that dollar amount. And then.
Well, what if they can't get it done? Then what do we
Then they
do?
got to come back to us and we talk about it again. It's not saying we're not going to do it if something happens. It's just saying, look, let's really lean in on these things and see what things can we do differently. How a gypsum ceiling costs $2.5 million? I don't know, but that's like the next biggest ticket item on this. But they know, and they know if there's things they could do differently on it. And I'm just saying, I'm asking the question to let them look at it, not re-engineer and change the foundational structure or the steel and the rest of it. We already ordered all that. That's done.
Right, yeah,
That's within side of that. Is there something else they can do? And it's a proper question to ask. And that's why I brought it up. And this has been really healthy discussion.
Oh, yeah,
And
100%.
all good. I think we're all leaning in the same direction. Let's get it done. But it's a fair ask to say, can you guys do this? And if we agree with that and they come back and say, hey, look, we ran into the bedrock of all bedrock and it costs us, they're okay, fine. Then they come back and talk to us again. But I think we're also fulfilling the needs of the kids while fulfilling our fiduciary responsibility by saying, hey, let's put a stop on this at this level. If it gets beyond that for whatever reason, okay, fine. If there's a way we can value this to where we save some dollars, that's good too. And you still accomplish both things.
Right, and trust me, I'd love to save money. Hell, I'd love to see my taxes go down, but do you guys see an opportunity to save $1 million without, just take the contingencies completely away and not even think the contingencies in there of $1 million savings? Is there a way to do it? I mean, I don't know that it can be done.
Square footage.
I think it's really, you'd have to have a tough position on square footage, and the only way to get it done.
I mean, I guess we're all here to save money, and I think it halfway splits us because I'm not I mean, if we're going to save money, you guys are going to save us money. I mean, and I'm relying on them because they're professionals in what they do. But I'm also at the point with all the chatter on social media and stuff, if you vote no, because I don't believe that's the way it should go with a contingency like that, then it makes us look split, I guess, as I have the issue.
We know you're gonna use rock money, and we know you're gonna use some of that.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I'm also afraid that materials may slightly go up if we don't lock in some of this stuff.
Are these
And then we
guys
just-
for 30 days?
July 8th is their
See,
D-Day.
what was that?
The quotes are valid till the
It's
8th.
supposed to
July
be
8th.
valid till July 8th.
A week.
So
This is discussions that we should have had months ago.
Well, I would have liked to, but we got pushed a week last week. I mean, we had it at the last board meeting. I'm appreciative that we had what we had, but I just, I think there comes a time, and I shared this sentiment with Jeff. It's like, you have us right up against a wall here. I agree with you. I would have loved to have had these conversations earlier, but now here we are. It's like, oh my gosh, we have a week, and if we don't do it now, we may see this, we may see that. We said over and over, and we don't know what the future will look like. But I think with the directive, I don't think that any of these. I've known Chad Greer for a long time. I don't think he's out to take any money from us. And I think he's a conservative guy would be very happy to bring money back to the
Well,
district.
and I'm not saying that anybody
But-
thinks that, but I think
but
we
my
don't lock
point-
something in.
But my point continues to be that the directive, that this is what we would like, and then we may revisit it at a different time, is what John is getting at. And I don't see, I said this to Dr. Moss yesterday, I said, I don't see the fault in saying, we tried like hell that we did this. We tried, we gave it our best faith effort. And if we can only save 500,000, then so be it. But that was the goal. We had a goal.
Here's my thought, and because I do bid work, and it's a completely different, because I do mold remediation as well. I would much rather give someone the higher number and get it and then say, hey, I was able to do it for this. And we've done projects and they've come, we save here and there. So I'd much rather get the project moving, and then as we move forward, if there's places that we can save money, then let's save the money. But it's harder to go back and ask or tell the public, hey, we need more. But it's easier to just say, hey, we saved you this. And I don't, if it's 100,000 or 200,000, whatever it is.
Can I take it next and say, I think everybody's had an opportunity to share their points of view and maybe call the question.
Yeah, you may, I just want to, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure procedurally that we're all at the same place. If we approve the motion by John and seconded by Riley, what we're doing is we're saying that we are moving forward without a gross maximum price. Is that the right word? What does GMP stand for?
Yeah.
Guaranteed maximum.
Pardon, thank you. Guaranteed maximum price. And the project just continues forward without that guarantee bid? Is that what we're,
You've
is that
got
what
to
it
approve your
is?
bids, and they're only good till July 8th.
So if we don't,
Well, let's ask what's the motion?
So the motion was, and I was talking about the total, so total project cost is 26,634,807. And I suggest you move forward with that, with the amendment that we cut $1 million out of this. And that's above the line and below the line to get to that 26. So that does take care of the guaranteed maximum price side of it, but it allows them the time to just look at this and say, what dollars can we take out? Plus they've got the contingencies in there. And that if it would come back then over 25,634,807, they just come back to us and say, look, we tried to do these things, we tried to cut this out. We were able to get to X, and now we're going to need this to finish it. So everything can still move forward, and it's how I'm interpreting it.
And we are approving the 22.4 million. It's
Within that.
under your amendment, right?
Within that,
So we
yes.
are approving
Because
the
it-
GMP.
Yeah, because it's in the
so
maximum.
my concern is that you are creating what is known as a counter offer to Crossland. They have an offer.
No, they have the 22,494.
Yeah.
They're approving that.
But we are approving it contingent.
Upon, yeah,
Reducing it by $1 million.
reducing the total.
Of the total, not within, and maybe a piece of it is up above in that 22.4, maybe a piece is below it. It's just in
So,
total.
so
But I
whose
don't-
responsibility
it
is
seems
it?
to me as though, how does Crossland accept what we have amended going forward and continuing their construction?
Aaron is here, so ask him.
Yeah, I'd defer to Danny.
Danny, sir, there's
Boss
nobody
man.
else.
Honestly, there's no way that we can accept, that we can accept the 22.494 GMP, but we can't guarantee that we're gonna be able to cut any money out of it.
But you're not saying cut money out of the 22.4, are you?
I'm not asking you for a guarantee, I'm not asking you for a guarantee. I'm simply saying that the total project cost is 26,634,807 right now, which is above and below with your GMP, is that we look to cut $1 million out of that. And that's between Kerry, Crossland, and Chad looking at it. And I'm not saying structurally change, but what's the easiest path forward to try to get some of those savings out? If you can do that, great. If you come back and say we cannot, then I think as a board, we just revisit it and say, okay, here's what you were able to do. And then we just approve whatever amount on top of that. So at least we went through the exercise of asking, doing a little deeper diligence on it, and you do what you can. But I'm not saying that,
Basically, what I understand is you're approving the 26.6 total program cost with the understanding is, as a team, we're going to try to find whatever savings we can find. And it would be a deducting change order to that guaranteed maximum price or total program.
Yeah.
That's not how I'm interpreting it.
Aaron, I have a question for you in the group.
Yes.
So have you guys, up till now, tried to find ways to save money through the project? Would you say
Yeah,
that's an accurate statement?
Well, let me
Yes.
speak to that.
Yes.
Because I get asked a lot, just like you guys do, as you can imagine. And the way I see it and the way that I've explained it is conceptually, when we went to the bond issue, we knew we were building an elementary school. We budgeted for it. We knew that's what we were trying to do. As we dug into the details and started really thinking about project developing it, it was determined that, hey, there's a need to add some square footage as a result of some programming, future-proofing the school to serve the students, and not only now, but in their foreseeable future. So the budget was increased, it was voted on by the board. Throughout the entire process, and I live here, I'm very accountable because I live here, and probably more so. But we've been very lean, very efficient in the way that we put the school together. There isn't any fluff in the building. There's nothing overly fancy or spacious. It is right-sized for the population of students that will go there. And so when, I hear saving $1 million, again, it is not something that is going to be addressed through simple changing out of carpet specifications in the building. It's going to be very tough decisions. And now there may be some money that can be taken back without making changes to the overall project. But I guess my concern would be, what portion of that $1 million you're wanting reduced out of the GMP? Because there's still a lot of variables outside of that GMP. That's kind of where I'm a little concerned is how you divide that $1 million up to take it out of different buckets. And I think it's going to be tougher to take it out of, any of the buckets, but even more so that GMP. Because again, it is already very lean, very conservative building. So that's just my take.
John, are you suggesting that we pay the 22, we approve the $22.4 million?
Yes.
Yes.
So that can all move
So that's,
forward.
from everything from here up
Right.
can move forward, right? And then here, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. We take a second look at it.
And I agree with you, Chad. I think that's the answer to that. But as a board member, I want to let the professionals
Yeah.
get there. I didn't want to point that out to you,
Yeah.
but you are correct. That's where it sits.
I understand. Thank you.
So
Well,
let
and
let
we
me make
haven't
sure I
gone out
understand.
to get furniture yet.
Let me make
We
sure I
haven't done that
understand.
yet.
What we're saying,
That's
what
$1 million
what
right
you
there.
guys are suggesting is that the money that's discretionary or to look at is from owner contingency on down.
If you're asking my opinion, that is the quickest path to try to find those savings. This other piece, it's not there. And the only upside there is if you don't hit all the rock issues, you don't have that. That's the only plus that comes back on your side. I understand that. It's really more carry on that piece of it to say, hey, are there some things we can do differently to try to get that $1 million out? And the only other thing that I offered up to Crossland is if you know that some of those trade packages are just way out of line from what your run rates have been for years, which you guys know this, maybe, and they're towards the end of the project, maybe that stuff you say, wait a minute, let's take this off the table right now. Let's rebid this later when the bubble comes down. And you guys know what those are in the trades.
And,
You know the
and
timing.
we have done that with the synthetic turf, for instance. It's way too expensive. And that's why
Great
we're
example.
saying,
Yep.
hey, you could potentially save $50,000,
And that's why we're gonna take
$100,000.
that on as a district later,
Yes.
is the turf and playground.
It sounds like we're already kind of doing some of this and that a little bit more is what you're suggesting. And you're a little bit more is what you're suggesting in this. And I think Jeff's already working on the permitting question and.
To see,
there's all
is there
kinds of
anything that we
areas
can
I'm
do with
seeing
that with the city?
here. And I think that we're fair to everybody. We're fair to the students, we're fair to the community, we're fair to the administration by approving today the GMT for the total construction cost, because all these things have to happen before this does.
And my second question would be, if there's an opportunity that presents itself as you move forward to save the district money, will you take advantage of that?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
I figured so. I didn't,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to know.
I think.
All right.
Yes.
So everybody's had a chance to share their opinions, and I appreciate that. Thank you for being open and to each other's opinions, even if we don't necessarily agree. I'm glad that everybody's had a chance to speak. So there is a motion on the floor, motion by John, a second by Riley.
So
Please,
just before we vote, I just want to make sure. So, okay, so the amendment, if it passes, then it passes for whatever that dollar figure. If it doesn't, then the original amendment, which actually,
well, there is an,
the original motion, which actually hasn't happened yet.
Well-
Which should before you can make a motion to amend. But then we would vote on that. So just so everybody knows where, so technically how this should work is someone should have made a motion to approve the recommendation from the administration. And then someone would have seconded it. And then we would have had our conversation. And then John would have said, I want to make a motion to amend that motion. And then Riley would have seconded that. And then that would be up for vote for the board. If it votes, if there's 4 yays, then that passes. If there's 3 or fewer yays, then that doesn't pass. Then we vote on the original motion. That's how this should play out.
he's got the original motion, though.
No,
We're voting
no,
on
no.
John's motion.
This,
Yeah.
correct.
To amend.
But
Which-
we can't amend a
Something
motion
that hasn't
didn't
even
happen,
happened.
technically.
That
We have
happened.
to.
Did that motion come back after?
I think
Yes,
so.
so we actually technically have to, someone has to approve the recommendation, make a motion to approve the recommendation. Someone has to second it,
Okay.
and then it has to be amended.
All right.
And
Let's
seconded.
get it straight.
And then we
Okay.
vote on the amendment, pass or fail. If it fails, we pass on the original motion.
So
Just to put that out there.
I appreciate what you're saying, but I'm very uncomfortable with what I'm voting on right now. I believe that I'm voting on a motion that was made by John and seconded by Riley, and I intend to vote on that motion as it was made.
Yes, and we
But it's to
will.
amend something that we
However,
haven't approved yet.
we can't technically amend
Something
something
that
that
isn't-
the administration recommends. We can only amend a motion that we set out.
Jeff,
would it be-
would it be correct to make a motion to approve the $22.4 million GMP?
So if I might say, contractually.
I think he's saying down here.
Their contracts for the district, and our contracts is that when the GMP is presented, that it is either approved, so that would, the basis of the vote should be the GMP amount.
Yes.
And then if there's additional
On the GMP.
then if there's additional direction on top of that to seek additional.
Right, so there's an outstanding motion. I would like to make a second motion. My motion is that we would approve the GMP as presented.
Second.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so now we have two things that we will vote on. I need to know what is being voted
So-
on first.
all
And
right.
there's a second, right?
Yep.
Thank you, Mike.
So if I turn to the parliamentarian that is not here,
Correct.
he says, a motion was made. That is the primary motion. Whatever it was, it's not written here, but whatever motion was made first is the primary motion. If it doesn't pass, there's nothing to do except make a new primary motion that is, as it's written in here, that is the administration's. So,
But the amendment now trumps the original. The amendment.
no,
would get voted on
it is
first.
the original.
But I'm
But
saying
how
share
can
it
you, how can
now.
you, how can you amend something that we don't even have something in line for?
Uh,
What are we amending?
We're not amending anything.
Okay.
Well, he asked if they were amending.
I really need to know what I'm voting
Yeah.
on. Just, we'll state that loud.
Okay.
Without parliament, ignore the parliamentary procedure.
Right.
Just tell me what the
So-
motion is that I'm voting on.
Right now, the motion I believe that's in order is John's motion to approve the recommendation with the caveat of reducing the total overall cost by $1 million, which includes the 22.494 for the S&P or the
So
GMP.
that's a motion.
That
and
is
then
the motion.
Sheriff made an amendment to that motion.
I made a second motion. I wasn't trying to amend it.
Yes.
I would like to vote on John's motion if I may.
Okay, you want to
Can I do
Withdraw?
that? I mean,
your motion? And then just vote on his?
this is bizarre. I've never had such problems.
Sheriff, you're an attorney, what's the best way forward? Honestly, I'm asking you.
I've had, Riley, I've served on a lot of boards. I've never had this issue come up from this side.
I don't know.
Struggle. I did not present my motion as an amendment to the original. If it is an amendment, it did not include the entirety of the original.
Okay.
And that's not typical. That would have been a reduction of an amendment, of a motion. I wasn't intending to do that. I was simply making a motion with the expectation I would be clarifying a person's vote.
Because you're trying to, your motion is to clarify, John.
To clarify what I as a board member would be voting on, which is the approval of the GMP as presented by Carlson. If that is what I'm voting on, and I'm not voting on.
That's
what am
not
I
it.
voting- Tell me what I'm
The
voting
vote
on.
that is in order right now is the motion that John made.
Thank you, then let me vote.
Okay, please vote.
Can I vote no very respectfully, John, because my concern is that I believe that is a contract amendment that cannot unilaterally be made. And my hope is that we will do exactly what John and Riley have asked for. So I respectfully say no, but I really appreciate the conversation.
And I am the same way. I'm confident that you guys will, and respectfully the same way, but my vote is no. No.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Okay, that motion did not pass. Would you like to make a further motion?
No, I've already, it's out there, I think, or is it not?
If it's not, I would make a
Okay.
motion that we approve the recommendation as stated
All right.
in the proposal that also includes the refusal of the bids for the turf and the outdoor equipment
But
as
Jim,
presented.
isn't there a motion on the floor by Sherrick and seconded by Derek, if not Derek, by Brent,
Michael.
or by Michael? Okay.
It's already out.
If it's already out
We have
there,
to vote on
okay.
just accepting the GMP.
I thought he rescinded it, so.
is it,
No, I did not.
Okay, okay.
so it's just,
Can I-
the-
whoa, can I-
Is it, Sharon?
Can I say something?
You just asked for
Motion
it.
is,
As presented.
and that's
Yeah.
what Brent said
We
too.
need to make sure it says, if that's the
Yeah.
motion, it says presented because there's a rejection of a bid on there.
yes.
Yes, I intend to say as presented, but I don't know.
Okay, so there's a motion, a second by Dr. Joseph. Please vote.
Vote on what?
I'm sorry, this
The
is,
original,
The original
So Sherrick is
recommendation.
not just the GMP, it is the total project cost, because you said the GMP.
I apologize, perhaps I did.
Total project cost is not part of that.
this is only for item C.
No,
It's
F,
F.
F.
it's F.
I mean, it's a C on our, it's the 22,490.
Well, you've already approved some of that already because you've
Okay,
got
so it's-
steel and concrete, which you've already
Okay.
approved. So that's all included in the 22,454,
And the earthwork utilities. that was
The green ones, yeah.
right?
Yep.
So if you read that,
So
let
it's,
me read it
the
out
white
loud and you listen closely, Danny. I know you guys have looked at this a gazillion times today, but let's read it. Administration recommends the Board of Education approve the amendment to the Crossland Construction Agreement for trade packages 4A and 6A through 26A, excluding 11D playground equipment, shade structures, and 32F synthetic turf and protective surfaces. 32B through 32D for a total of $13,618,758, plus associated construction costs of $2,766,582, for a total GMP of $16,385,340. In addition, administration recommends the school board reject the bids for trade package 32S, synthetic turf and protective surfaces.
is that your motion, Sherry?
Boy, if I could have articulated it that way, I should have.
Okay.
That gets us to the 22,494 because site package bids and
Yeah.
steel and concrete were previously approved.
Yes.
And
Okay.
that-
And that's the motion, Sharon?
It's referenced something.
And Mike is seconding. Okay,
Yes,
now,
thank you for that clarification.
okay.
Now, there
Please.
can be continued conversation if, I think.
Would you like
John
some
may have had a question.
discussion before?
Yes.
We're happy to.
We're saying that the motion on the floor is that we're going to approve the 26,634, which also includes
it-
the 22,494. Is that what I'm
No.
reading?
It's only
That's what's on
approving the
board.
22,494. All this,
No, that's data. Scroll up, Eric. There's the motion. That's the recommendation.
Motion's
That was
involved.
data to show you the parts underneath that we're gonna work like the Dickens to bring down, which I think was your intent.
Which has been the intent all along, with
Sure.
the FF&E and the technology side. I just want to make that clear to hear that we've had multiple, and if I would have known this part, I would have got some estimates on FF&E earlier, but we've been waiting to hold off on that because of potential,
Sure.
this and that. So,
Yeah, we're holding off on furniture and fixtures, which is almost $1 million right there. The
So-
motion is for the stuff above,
Yes.
which is what I heard you say, John, after your
It's
motion.
all the white cells in the right.
Correct.
Okay.
So wait, have we approved $600,000 in contingency, yes or no? As a board?
Down below,
What was the question? I
Have
didn't.
we approved
Yeah.
owner contingency, 600,000? Have we approved that?
Yeah.
Only to the degree that it's always been included as a line item in previous reviews and the subsequent approval in December. That was a line item.
So in December, it was there.
So we've authorized
Yep.
600,000 already.
Yep.
But it's still yours.
Right.
And if we don't spend it, it's ours.
Sure, but we've authorized that.
Right.
Yes.
Have we authorized furniture, furnishings, and equipment?
992.
It's been part of the
That's been
overall
part of it, just like
budget
Chad
costs
said.
we've been
Right.
notifying you
So
guys.
why aren't we just voting on the 26?
Because
Because
that's,
it's already part of the project.
but that's not part of their
Right.
GMP.
It's not our GMP. That's the total program cost, not the total construction cost that is
Because-
included in our GMP.
We'll be going out to get those furniture bids.
And
They
we'll
don't
come
care
back
if we get
separately.
Furniture or not.
They don't,
Yeah.
So is the motion just about the GMP?
yes.
It is.
When I started.
Yes.
And by the way, just to say, I said it earlier, but there was a lot of
Uh-huh.
stuff, but I think contractually, the way your contract with Crossland reads is they bring you a GMP. You vote on a GMP, either up or down.
Uh-huh.
And that's the basic.
Yeah.
For the record, that is precisely what I was concerned about with
Yes.
another motion made, is we were proposing to amend an agreement that we had, which I thought would open things, and I just didn't think that was possible. But
So the motion
we
that's,
accept this GMP, or we don't?
it's the GMP right now. That's the motion. Okay, you ready to vote?
I am,
Please vote.
yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, okay, that motion passes.
I want to say everybody's awesome.
Everybody is pulling their weight.
That's all.
Yep. Okay, so,
Go
Thank
save
you.
us some money somewhere.
yes,
We
Please
understand,
do it.
we understand the direction.
People
I assure you.
okay. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for your patience with us. Some of us are newer and didn't have the,
Some of us have been around a while. We
Well-
haven't been through a construction project this size.
well, and
We
From
fell in
beginning
on
to
the
end.
end. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. This is-
beginning to end, some people were parachuted in because now they own it and they want to make sure they're up to speed, and I can appreciate that. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay,
It dries
Let's go
out
to-
cold, Aaron.
Okay, we have some.
Thank you, sir.
we got two
Yeah,
more
look forward
things.
to it.
Oh, we do.
Yep, Edgenuity, Dr. Saketa,
Yes.
license extension Edgenuity.
See the
So Ingenuity is a program that we use for virtual classes, and credit recovery is very important to us, for our students, because we want to make sure all of our students have a chance to meet the concepts and the standards of all the courses, and especially secondary too, when it comes to high school matriculation towards graduation. So for all grade levels, equally important. So anyway, we would like to go ahead and have you authorize an extension of the Ingenuity license for another year. And if there's anything that Sarah or Eric want to say about it, that would be fine with me too.
Are you satisfied with it?
Yeah, we've used Edgenuity for a pretty lengthy time. And one thing just for the board to know, as they make updates, revisions, those types of things, we vet those through just our regular curriculum routine. And so we had some pieces that we were vetting through. They had some new updates. So we'll spend this summer and before school starts looking through that. But it's an online platform. We don't only use it for virtual. It actually started in the high school as a supplemental resource. So we do have teachers who pull pieces as supplemental, but it also is our modality for 612 virtual as well.
Great. Be happy to entertain a motion.
I would move that we accept as presented.
Okay, thank you, Derek. Second, thank you, Michael. It's been moved and seconded that we approve as presented. Please vote.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Okay, last up, we've got the Go Guardian.
Yeah, we've been using Go Guardian for a little while now. We've also found out there's some other potential savings and some expansion of the services that Go Guardian has for us.
Let me just make one comment for those. The Go Guardian suite with Beacon is not our Beacon school. That is the brand of the company that makes the software, because it took a little while for me to catch that myself.
So monitoring kids in the classroom is a big deal with what's going on, to keep them on task and keep them funneled to where we want them to go on certain websites and everything. And I would like to ask Eric just to talk briefly about how we use Securely, which was this other platform to be able to track students' emails and conversations through our network where there might have been a potential of self-harm or danger or some threat or something. And I think you're all keenly aware that Eric and Jim Hounshell monitor that almost all the time. And then during the week that we're doing that with our principals, but Eric's found another way to expand Go Guardian in lieu of Securely. Again, on the operations side, like we've all been talking, save money over here a little bit to address something over there.
Securely we already had for our firewall and everything, and they wanted to venture into the market of the 24/7, and they offered us alpha and beta licensing. Well, that's all gone away, so the price has gone up significantly over the last few years. And then Go Guardian, who is one of the leading organizations that actually do the 24/7 monitoring also, and we already have the product in our school. We ran them side by side at the high school for about 2 months, and they caught everything that Securely caught. So any kind of self-harm or whatever the students were talking about. So we decided, we might as well go with Go Guardian because it's got the way we access it through a third party called Clever. We can do it at the building level, so it wouldn't be just me and Mr. Hounshell that's on the alert. We could start filtering in whoever we want to by building, so the principals or the counselors or however we want to attack that. And then, put me and Jim at the bottom, so if they can't get a hold of anybody, then they get a hold of us.
Makes
But
sense.
it's also a $30,000 savings.
Thanks for checking into it. Any further questions?
I'd make a motion that we accept the Go Guardian extension.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
So to go with this new Go Guardian, you're saying it's a $30,000 annual savings versus what we were previously paying with the other vendor?
Correct.
Okay, excellent.
Yep.
Yep.
I just didn't quite catch that. Thank you.
And we will work through
Yeah, we gotta work through the-
we're gonna work through the chain of how those
notifications.
emails
Yep.
get to people and everything else. What we want you to know too is Jim and Eric do a tremendous job. I mean, getting emails, because the previous system was picking up every little thing. And so then it's a question of, was the kid doing a research project or was,
Right,
were they
right.
just asking a question? And so we tried to work to funnel that information down. Plus, the system has somebody that's looking at alert for the most worst case. So it's not an exact science, but I will tell you, thankfully, we've had a couple of situations that were a tiny bit close. But the majority of them, the vast, vast majority of them are not what they might appear when you see the words typed. But in several cases, there have been kids that need to talk to somebody.
Right.
And their parents need to be alerted. And I think it's a good service that we're giving to our parents.
I agree.
Even though thankfully we're not catching kids doing the worst thing, but with their kids, everybody needs to talk to somebody. That's the way it is sometimes. So
Thank you.
it's a good service to the parents. I want the parents to know that.
Thank you.
My motion is
Second.
Motion by Derek, second by Dr. Joseph. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay,
Make a
that
motion to
passes.
adjourn to closed session.
Okay, motion by Derek, second by Dr. Joseph. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Are we gonna
We stay in
move
here?
to the other room?
I
We
mean-
could stay